Have you ever wondered if the things you're doing could cause your adult children to emotionally distance themselves from you? For many parents, the idea that their children might slowly pull away is a painful thought. But, often, this distance doesn't happen all at once. It begins with small choices, repeated patterns, and emotional wounds that never quite heal. Parents who gave everything during their children's early years may find themselves isolated, left out, or slowly cut off later in life. But here's the hard truth. Adult children rarely walk away from their parents without a reason, even if that reason has been unspoken for years. In this video, we're diving into 5 subtle but powerful reasons why adult children emotionally or physically distance themselves from their parents. Some of these may surprise you, some may hit close to home, but all of them matter. Because if you recognize one or more of these patterns in your relationship, you might have the chance to not only save your connection with your children, but to heal old wounds, improve communication, and create a bond that will last through every stage of life. Let's get started. Number 1. Guilt tripping or emotional manipulation. No child grows up hoping to pull away from their parents. But for many adults, what drives the distance isn't one dramatic fight. It's the slow burn of emotional guilt that never seems to fade. Guilt tripping appears in quiet, everyday conversations, in the phrases we use without thinking. It's when "I miss you" turns into "you never call anymore," or when "I love to see you" becomes "I guess I don't matter like I used to." While these words may come from a place of hurt, over time, they start to feel less like love and more like a trap. Grown children, especially those balancing careers, families, and their own personal struggles, begin to feel like nothing they do is ever enough. Every visit seems to come with strings attached. Every phone call leaves them emotionally drained. And over time, this emotional toll builds. What once was a well-meaning comment turns into a source of dread, and eventually, it leads to avoidance. One day, they stop calling at all, not because they don't care, but because caring always feels like it comes with a price. I remember David, a 68-year-old from Boston, who loved his daughter deeply. But every time she canceled a visit or was late, he'd say things like, "I guess you have more important people in your life now." He thought he was being honest, but his daughter thought he was punishing her. Eventually, she stopped coming around, not out of anger, but exhaustion. Here's the painful irony. Guilt is usually used by those who feel unloved, but its effect is the exact opposite. It pushes people further away. Adult children want to be wanted, not needed out of obligation. They want to feel that their presence is enough, not that they are constantly disappointing someone they love. And when they don't feel that, they start protecting themselves. Sometimes that looks like sending short texts. Sometimes it looks like silence. If you've noticed your children pulling away, ask yourself, have I been using guilt to get closer? Have I made them feel bad for having a life of their own? Have my words come from longing or control? There's a big difference between sharing your feelings and using those feelings as leverage. One invites connection, the other drains it. Real love allows people to breathe. And if you want your adult children to come closer, make sure your love feels like a place they can rest, not a weight they have to carry. Number 2. Disrespecting boundaries or independence. One of the fastest ways to drive a wedge between you and your adult children is by crossing lines they've tried to gently but clearly draw. This often starts with good intentions. You ask how their marriage is going, offer advice about their kids, or show up unannounced, thinking, it's just family. But to your adult child, these moments don't feel like love, they feel like intrusion. As your children grow older, they build lives of their own. They develop their own routines, values, and ways of doing things, which may be completely different from yours. When you step in too far, telling them how to parent, how to spend their money, or how often to visit, you may think you're helping. But they often feel criticized, micromanaged, or simply not trusted. Take Linda, a 72-year-old from Denver, who meant well. She often offered to reorganize her daughter's kitchen during visits, saying, "You'd be amazed how much space you're wasting." Her daughter smiled politely but began visiting less and less, not because she didn't love her mother, but because every visit made her feel like she was back in childhood, not adulthood. Boundaries aren't rejection. They're how adult children protect their emotional peace. When those boundaries are respected, trust grows. But when they're ignored, resentment begins to build. If you've crossed a line without meaning to, the first step is to listen, really listen, when your child tells you what they need. Don't take boundaries personally. See them as signs of a healthy adult relationship. And if you're unsure where the line is, just ask, is it okay if I offer some thoughts? Or, would you like me to help, or would you prefer I just listen? Those questions show respect. They give your children the power to choose, and that choice is what makes them feel safe around you. Number 3. Chronic criticism and negative tone. Most adult children don't cut off their parents because of one big argument. More often, it's the small comments, the repeated sighs, the constant corrections, the subtle but steady stream of criticism that gradually wear them down. It might not even sound harsh to you. You may think you're just being honest, saying things like, "You really need to lose a little weight," or "I wouldn't raise my kids like that." But what feels like concern to you often feels like judgment to them. And when someone feels constantly judged, they stop showing up as their full self. They stop sharing news, they start editing their life, and eventually, they stop coming around. I once spoke with Thomas, 65, whose son had stopped visiting altogether. "I just want what's best for him," Thomas said. But when I asked if they'd ever talked about the ongoing criticisms during his son's teenage years, Greg shrugged it off, saying, "He was a handful. I did what I had to do." That simple sentence explained everything. His son didn't need perfection. He needed acknowledgement. A simple heartfelt, "I'm sorry I hurt you back then," could have changed the course of their entire relationship. Negativity doesn't have to be loud to be damaging. It can live in your tone, in the way you pause before responding, or the way you say, "Well, I never would have done it that way." Over time, those patterns of negativity erode trust. The good news is this is one of the easiest patterns to change. Start by noticing your first response. If it's negative, pause. Ask yourself, is this helpful? Is this kind? Is this necessary right now? Try offering encouragement instead. Instead of saying, "That's a bad decision," try, "That sounds tough. How are you feeling about it?" Or instead of, "You need to do better," try, "I'm proud of how hard you're trying." You'd be amazed at how a small shift in tone can create a big shift in the relationship. Number 4. Taking their support for granted. One of the most painful reasons adult children pull away is when they begin to feel like their role in the family is to give, but never to receive. Support can come in many forms: emotional, practical, or financial. In the beginning, they give because they want to, out of love and loyalty. But when that giving goes unrecognized or, worse, expected, it changes the dynamic from love to obligation. Take Daniel, 82, from Chicago, who relied heavily on his daughter to help manage his medications and appointments. She came over 3 times a week. But when she asked if she could skip one visit to rest after a long work week, his reply was, "I guess I'll just figure it out myself like always." At first, she didn't say anything, but over time, that moment shifted something in her. Eventually, she started pulling back, not because she didn't care, but because being with her father felt like a job she couldn't clock out of. Even the most loving child will start pulling back if they feel their efforts are being taken for granted. No one wants to feel used. And when adult children sense that their help is expected and unappreciated, it's not long before they either reduce their support or cut it off entirely. This doesn't mean you shouldn't ask for help, but it does mean you should match their effort with gratitude. Let them know that what they do for you is seen, appreciated, and never assumed. Number 5. Refusing to grow or take responsibility for past hurt. Sometimes, the deepest silence from an adult child doesn't come from what's happening now, but from what was never acknowledged years ago. Maybe it was how you handled discipline. Maybe it was a hurtful comment they never forgot. Maybe it was how you treated their other parent or how you responded when they needed you most. You may not even remember it, or you may have had good reasons at the time. But the truth is, if your child carries unresolved pain and you continue to act like nothing ever happened, they'll eventually pull away. Not because they don't care, but because they've stopped hoping you ever will. I remember Greg, 75, from Atlanta, who couldn't understand why his son barely called. "He has no reason to be distant," Greg said. But when I asked if they'd ever talked about the yelling during his teenage years, Greg simply shrugged it off, saying, "He was a handful. I did what I had to do." That one sentence explained everything. Your children don't need you to carry guilt, but they do need to see that you're still capable of growth. A simple, "I'm sorry I hurt you back then," can change the course of everything. If you've made it this far, take a moment to ask yourself, which of these patterns do I recognize in myself? The truth is, Most adult children don't want to walk away. They don't want distance or silence. They want connection. But they also want peace. When peace is disrupted by guilt, control, criticism, or emotional debts that never seem to be repaid, they eventually make the heartbreaking choice to protect themselves. Not because they've stopped caring, but because they're tired. The good news is, distance doesn't have to be permanent. When parents take the time to reflect, soften their approach, and acknowledge past hurts, the door begins to open again. Start with one small shift. One conversation where you listen without defending, one visit where you say thank you without expecting anything in return, or one moment where you let them live their life their way and love them as they are. Because no matter how many years have passed, it's never too late to rebuild trust. The first step back into each other's lives can start with the simplest words, "I see it now. I'm willing to change." Thank you for joining us today. We'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment below and share one thing you learned today and how you plan to use it. Your thoughts are important to us, so don't hesitate to share them. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and share. Your support helps us continue creating content that informs and inspires. Thanks for watching, and we look forward to seeing you in the next video.